Good morning. We're going to be delving into our 16th day of looking into the devotions that are contained in Almost Christmas, a Wesleyan Advent experience. And today's devotion was written by James Harnish and comes to us in addressing the question of John Wesley, is God my glory, my delight, and my source of joy? You ready to get into it? Let's get started. Watch for it along the way to Christmas, he says, and you never know, it may take you by surprise because it's easily missed amid the delightful chaos and beautiful clutter of the season. What is he talking about? He's talking about the joy of anticipation. He says it's the kind of joy we experience when we find the perfect gift for people we love and we anticipate the look of surprise when they open them on Christmas morning. It's the joy of sending Christmas cards and imagining the way the people will feel when they receive them. It's the joy we feel in anticipation of a greater joy yet to come, a joy of hoping for a gift we have yet to receive. Biblically, he reminds us, it's the joy of anticipating the joy-soaked day when God's kingdom comes and God's will is fully done on earth as it becomes flesh in Jesus and is already fulfilled in heaven. He thinks that that's what John Wesley had in mind when John Wesley said that being altogether Christian includes rejoicing in hope of the glory of God. He borrowed the phrase from Paul, who commands us to rejoice in hope. That is found in Romans chapter 12, verse 12. We are encouraged to experience joy not merely in the memory of Christmas past, but in our assurance of Christmas yet to come. So when the author C.S. Lewis told the story of his own journey from arid agnosticism into vibrant faith, he described it as his longing for an experience of joy, a word he consistently capitalized. He called joy, capital J-O-Y, an unsatisfied desire, which is itself more desirable than any other satisfaction. He said that the one and only characteristic that joy has in common with happiness or pleasure is that anyone who has experienced it will want it again. The difference is that happiness and pleasure often depend upon our circumstances. We heard that in our devotion yesterday, didn't we? And that they are largely happiness and pleasure dependent upon or within our power to create or control. But joy is always an undeserved gift from God. That's why C.S. Lewis entitled his spiritual autobiography, Surprised by Joy. Paul's command to rejoice in hope is set in the context of his description of specific behaviors that shape our lives around the hope we share. The joy is not simply an internal emotion. It is a joy that becomes flesh in the way we live. It enables us to live now in ways that are consistent with the future with which we hope for. It is the joy we saw in Archbishop Desmond Tutu during the darkest days of the struggle against apartheid. His courageous leadership was consistently infused with an irrepressible joy in the assurance that God's promise of freedom would one day be fulfilled. It was a joy of anticipation of what was yet to come. Dietrich Bonhoeffer described the same joy in his last letter to his former students before he was imprisoned. He fearlessly named the suffering they were facing, but he affirmed that joy abides with God, and it comes down from God and embraces spirit, soul, and bodies. And where his joy has seized a person, there it spreads, there it carries one away, and there it bursts open closed doors. He tells us to watch for joy along the way to Christmas and along the journey from being almost to altogether Christian. It may come when we least expect it, and it's the joy that rejoices in the hope of what is yet to come. These are really good words to hear on the 16th day of our devotional journey of Advent 2020 in the year of a pandemic that has altered all circumstances around us. It's a good word for us to ponder this morning. Blessings, my friends.